Does it make sense to you that players will be able to leave the NBA bubble once the season resumes?
All right, so this is from Jared Dudley, and it makes a lot of sense for the NBA because it's partners with ESPN to end up in some place like Disney World. Jared Dudley has been on some of these conference calls with Adam Silver, and incidentally, by the way these players trust Adam Silver is much different than the football counterpart that they have in Roger Goodell. But Jared Dudley's involved with some of the decision making, some of the details, and he says players are going to be able to come and go from the bubble. They're just going to have to be checked when they return. And if they are indeed positive, then they can't play, which makes me think that they're not going to be leaving the bubble very much, not just because you don't want one of these Karl Anthony Towns situations where you're going home, being with your family, not realizing that you're contagious, but this is a very difficult plan. All of it is very complicated. And my guess is, like Jared Dudley said, LeBron James and Anthony Davis, players you cannot lose. A Greek freak, they're not going to be going outside the bubble or the campus very much.
In the immortal words of Krusty the Clown, he said the quiet part loud and the loud part quiet, right? Like everyone knows, sure, some players will probably leave, but they have to be careful. And when they do, if they do it casually, as he kind of suggests, they will strain an already strained testing system. It's not like they can leave, come back, get their wrist stamped, and then just go on their way. This is not a music festival. It's not COVIDcella. This is a very complicated system. And while I feel increasingly confident that the NBA can or is going to try to make this work, comments like that make me dubious, right? Because the players have to take it very seriously for it to work, not just because they would be posing a risk to each other or the competition, but to literally every other person involved in getting this thing off the ground.
Yeah, this isn't COVIDcella. I just hope it's not Firefest. And this is how this all falls apart, is when players don't take this seriously. The last thing, Dan, you mentioned the relationship, the alliance, really, the political alliance that Adam Silver has with superstars. That's so unique. The way that falls apart is when the NBA is forced into a position of monitoring players' movements, of truly doing something that infringes on the closest thing to their civil liberties that has come up in sports. This is going to get really dicey if the players themselves don't take it seriously, and they are forcing the authority figures, so to speak, to be the bad guys. But the reason Jared Dudley is speaking out about this, beyond his very transparent desire to be a media person, which I salute, by the way, it's because finally, for the first time in NBA history, there is bench privilege. The scrubs have a privilege that the superstars do not. You're right. LeBron James and Anthony Davis cannot possibly leave because that would torpedo the entire playoff fortune of the Lakers. But if you're Jared Dudley or if you're Quinn Cook, yeah, you might try and get in and out because if you lose them, maybe it's not so bad.
They're going to be on the rides. There are going to be so many NBA players that are going to start up those Disney rides. The guys, the 19 and the 20-year-olds are going to be on, like, is there still a Mr. Toad's Wild Ride or the teacups or whatever? They're going to be flying with the Avatar.
Can you imagine Dion Waiters on Space Mountain by himself?
By the way, I do love the idea of having to insulate the stars from their own teammates. Like, you know, LeBron's going to be like, ooh, sorry, can't pass you the ball, Jared Dudley, because I might get coronavirus if it comes back to me. I'm going to have to take this shot myself. I should have done James Harden there. Why did I do LeBron?
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.